Seating Table 109 with Sierra Schimmel.
Welcome to the chaos.
Let's wrap it.
Let's
get into this. So welcome back to the chaos. Today we have on a very special person, former nightlife bottle server, and now finishing up her master's in behavioral psychology, Miss Sierra Schimmel.
Hey guys.
What's up, babe? How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Glad you're here. You definitely have a very amazing wild life and things you can definitely touch on from the nightlife realm into where you are now, because I've watched this girl grow over the years, and the growth in her has been incredible.
Aw, thank you.
From when I met her when she was a youngin' to where she is now, it's like, I mean, like all of us, it's night and day, but she's really come a very long way. I'm super proud of her.
Aw.
Yeah, I kind of like the conversations that we have before we start recording with certain people. You're like, oh shit, that's what you're doing?
Yeah.
So it's so cool to get, unpack some of that stuff and get into it.
Yeah, even the 2 minutes. Yeah, don't you feel like we already know each other so much more than 2
Exactly, yeah.
minutes? It's great.
And that's that bond we have, like when we work nightlife together and we're in that scene, you have an instant bond.
Instant connection. Yeah, because you know that we've been through some of the same shit.
Exactly, yes.
Yeah.
So tell us
Regardless
a little
of
bit
it.
about your history and how you got into nightlife or where you're from.
I'm from Arizona, and I moved pretty young. I was 17, and I moved to San Diego and did the kind of finding yourself thing, and then decided to go to FITM, the Fashion Institute, in Los Angeles. So I moved there and realized that, you can't really live in LA on a 20 grand salary and going to FITM. So I decided to do nightlife when I became, of age to do it. And the first place I actually worked was Warwick. I opened it. And kind of navigating school and nightlife was very, very difficult because the hours, the stress. I was doing full time. And then even graduating FITM, I got an internship for Free People, and I wanted to go into the fashion world. And then that just became almost impossible because, you're working till 3 a.m. and I'd have to be downtown at 9 a.m. And I took the road of a young 20-year-old and put all my efforts towards nightlife and bottle service, and ended up having to leave my internship for what I ultimately wanted in my career, which was probably the moment I started to get a little lost and not have as much self, worth of the $50,000 education I just, put into it. So. And then I kind of just stayed with it, and that kind of became my identity for like almost all of my 20s. I'm 29 now. So
yeah.
And then,
I literally had like the same path. I had an Instagram live interview earlier today, and I feel like I said the same exact thing that you said.
Yeah.
Because like I came out here at 21 and I started doing odd jobs, and I was like acting, that's what I came out here for. Then I needed money, and I got into nightlife, and I was like, oh, I'm making $200 to $300 a night.
The money it's addicting in a way, and it's like in your head when you're young too. It's like that's it's your livelihood, and it's scary to be out here not having that support. So, but then you don't realize how much energy it takes away from what you came here to do originally. Yeah.
Sucking.
Yes. Yes. It's very, 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 not just draining, like tired draining, mentally draining, so.
Let's talk about Warwick real quick, because you mentioned that, and I know some people from there, and I don't want to, we'll talk off.
We don't have to do names or
podcast,
anything.
Because
but,
there's some shit that went down in that place with me.
Yeah.
But,
Well, yeah. We all have our Warwick. It was a great company to start with. And I got very, very close to the girls in the community. And, even the people who ran it, like, it was a good group for sure. Very supportive group. But then you get into, the people who are consistently there, promoters, celebrities, whatever. And then, it kind of becomes, you kind of just get really sucked in quick. And then it becomes trying to be like the best bottle server you can be. I ended up being like the lead bottle server before I left. And I thought it was like such a big accomplishment. And I mean, it is, because you're doing a lot, but it was like that was when I completely lost track of my ultimate goal in life. You know what I mean?
Oh, for sure.
And
becoming a leader in any job, it's like,
yeah.
It makes you feel a certain way, and you start to take on those responsibilities seriously, even though.
Then when we became leads, because I know for all of us, because like we said, we were acting and you were in school, then it became a real job.
Yeah, like a career job.
Yeah, because then it's like, oh, people in this industry notice me. Oh, I'm doing well here. Oh, I can move up. And then we think but actually moving up is not that great.
But you don't think that
make
you're
less
moving
money.
up just being like a bar back
Yeah.
or whatever. And then all of a sudden you're like, wait, there's another level to this area. And then it's like, you're also serving, high clients, high end clientele. And that of course also makes you feel important, making them happy, whatever. It just, it is definitely like an ego boost in a good and bad way. It's like a double-edged sword.
It's more of a status thing.
Yeah. It's
Like,
yeah.
Because we talk about, when we all moved, Danny, when we moved up into management, the money is not as good and the hours are longer, but the status that comes with it.
You get a
the
business card.
Yeah.
Well, yeah,
the status, the respect. You get an email, right? I never had my own email address besides the one I'd make on Gmail until I got into my
I was
management
gonna
position.
say
I'm like, oh,
you went from the our little the bar back to like management. Yeah, that
Yeah,
was like a big leap.
Man, I don't know how many times when I got the first business card, like how much that helps to get open doors.
Absolutely.
Like we went to Canada, off topic, but we went to Canada and there was like this huge line around it's called Government, was a big club there. And
It's funny. It's funny.
we rolled up with like 5 deep and I was just like, nah, fuck that, let's go. I went up to the front and I was like, hey, I'm the bar manager at Sayers Club for SBE. And he's like, oh shit, okay. I don't think he knew what I was talking about.
Isn't that the best feeling though? I did that as a bottle service girl. Yes. Roll up to the club and be like, yo, I got the girls. I'm a bottle server at, wherever the hell I was. And they'd be like, oh yeah, come in. And
Yeah.
but it's like
there's a bit of a difference if
with
you
a woman, I know.
looking like you do, and
Right.
the 5 girls you were with looking like they do. Like
For
again,
sure.
bottle servers are probably the hottest girls in the city. So when 5 dudes roll up, it's a big difference. But I get it. Like especially
Very
when
true.
I'm in town for an EDC, any place I go with the card that says Director of Operations, it's
That's instant.
It's instant. But like you said, the nightlife, the hospitality, it's such a community.
It
So
is.
there's a
It is really a community.
Yeah, there's a certain respect level where if I go up, drop the card, it's like,
Yeah.
okay, I know
Whether or
who
not
you
they
are.
know
You're
you or the
somebody
club,
dope.
they know.
And then for them, it's like it's a networking thing where it's like, okay, I'm gonna take care of you here. So then when there's that event that I want to go to,
Exactly.
But that's how it goes. One hand washes the other. So if I get taken care of in some club, then when they want to come to one of my events, yeah, no problem, I got you. You're gonna get the same hospitality that you showed me.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's where I think the sense of what I was saying before with identity, you know what I mean? It just kind of becomes who you are, which is not necessarily a bad thing if that's what you want, is to, go up into management with, that kind of industry. But if that's not what you originally set up for, then you can kind of lose a sense of self, I think, in that world.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So what happened after Warwick?
I bounced around to a lot of places. I just in Warwick, left on good terms, just moving on. And then I worked for like H Wood Group for a while. I basically went from Warwick to H Wood Group, did a bunch of their different stuffs and different clubs, and then Mikey here hired me for some EDC stuff, like, you know what I mean, just multiple different music events, stuff like that, and that kind of just became like what I focused on, and then. Yeah, I don't know. It's weird. It was like once I was in it. And then I think I've literally probably worked at every club in Hollywood from 2010 to 2019.
Yeah. Did you meet Mikey through work or was it at one of your clubs?
So Mikey was my, what did we call them again? TSA. Geez, I even forgot the name.
Fluff
At
boy?
Hyde, the first Hyde, the little Hyde, the little.
Yeah,
like,
I remember Little Hyde.
He was I actually worked there briefly before
I got you on
Warwick.
your first night, I think.
And he had me on my first night, and he was my TSA, and we just, we hit it off because we have similar personalities. And then, we just kind of stayed in touch on and off. And then you started running, Insomniac stuff and hired me for one of the events. And a lot of the girls who I had worked with at, Warwick or other clubs. And so it made it easy because, you knew the crew, it was comfortable. And it was, again, money. It's also, if you are trying to work other nightclubs, having that, doing EDC, which is a high volume, high clientele event, it just shows your, ability to do it. So started doing that, and then kind of started to, get into getting older, and all of a sudden you like wake up and you're in almost 30 and you're like, wait, what happened to that one thing I came out here to do?
Yes. I think we mentioned that like the mid-20s.
Yeah.
complete blur.
Complete
Complete blur. But yo, let's be real. It was a fucking blast.
It was. I wouldn't
yeah.
trade it.
I
The
wouldn't trade
experience,
it.
things
I mean,
I was flown to Ibiza. Like, yeah, there's like things I wouldn't ever change for just meeting those people in it. But
I mean, and there were so many. I mean, we look back now and like, I'm great. Like, there were some hard times, and I know each one of us in the seat and everybody who's been in that hot chair that Sierra's sitting in right now has had some hard time. But the amount of growth that has come from that and the lessons we've learned from that has been pretty dope.
yes, 100%. I've completely transformed. I wouldn't say who I am, but to who I've always wanted to be, and then who I think I was like starting. I think I was starting to become someone I didn't envision for my life. So, not like I said, not that I would ever take it back, because there was so much growth from it, and I probably needed those my 20s to be kind of just like bouncing around and enjoying. Like I said, when I'm 60, 70, I'm gonna look back and be like, damn, I got some stories.
Yeah.
But so I wouldn't trade it for that. But yeah, my life is a completely different thing now, and I'm just more centered and I have more self-love and self-awareness than I've ever had. But I do equate a lot of that to the good and bad times of that lifestyle.
Yeah, you have to face challenges in life to like really figure out who you are. And that's what we like to kind of get into. So we talked about the hard times, and we had a lot of fun, but what were those hard times like, and how did they change you, and
What was the mental toll
Yeah.
it took on you?
The mental toll for me was, I tend to be, which I'm sure most people in this tend to be, a yes to everything person, like overexerting, your, whether it's time or, just making sure everyone's happy, whatever it is. And, and then taking away from what you need as yourself in your own time. And, I also got very caught up into the world itself and like I said, going out, going on trips, and, found, out in myself that I had my own issues with, numbing myself and with substances, and kind of then at the end of my bottle service career really relied on that to even get through a shift at work, which was then not becoming fun anymore. It was becoming more mentally taxing. And, me just being like, okay, another shift, I got to do this to feel good, or this to, you know what I mean? And I think the people, since it is a community and you really do build strong bonds with those people, could notice that shift in me, from like fun and cool and like great, and this is exciting, to like I'm so exhausted from the just the energy that I'm using things so I'm like just numb when I'm at work, and I ended up, the last place I worked at, I ended up actually going to a recovery program, and moving over to the South Bay area and kind of restarting my life. And I'm 29 now. I did this when I was 27. So it's been 3 years. I actually had 3 years last month. So
yeah, that's awesome.
yeah, my 3 years. So it's a big one for me. And and then now I'm going from FITM to getting my master's in behavioral psychology, which kind of intertwines with what we're talking about. Like, I feel like case study wise, I got 1,000 of them. Like, we've met all different types of people.
Yeah.
And honestly, a lot of it was just because what I went through. I feel like there's a stigma against a lot of things. And so people tend to harbor those things, whether it's stress, whether it's, getting too involved or whatever. And so that you don't talk about it. And then it sits and it builds. And then you don't know if it's, you're depressed or whatever it is. And it's like the more people were open about these feelings, there would be a community where you could talk about it. And then maybe it wouldn't get to such an extreme point like I got to. And so that was kind of my main focus in my career transition, is talking about those things like PTSD, trauma, not just, there's severe and extreme cases, but there's also, cases of people going through years of maybe a mentally draining job in whatever aspect, and they need to get over that to, move on, or it's just they're going to build, and it's going to reside within themselves. And so that was kind of my shift, finding myself.
It's great that you found that shift, and it's really interesting that you did it. You made a decision to go into rehab while you were working. Like, some people, they got out of nightlife and then got into rehab, right? Because that's kind of like the culmination of them having to quit, kind of led them that way. So you did it in the middle.
Mine was day after. Like, literally, I had a bad night. I was coming off a fix, looking for something, and had a really bad night at work, really made a huge error judgment that was completely on me. And, like I said, that the people there actually, you create bonds with them, and they actually were concerned more than mad, which was, I think, like a revelation for me. Cause like everything there is so geared towards money and clients and stuff. And it wasn't like you fucked up because this person's mad. It was like, we're concerned about your well-being. And I was like, whoa, like I need to check it, talk to my sister, my best friend about it. And literally the next day, my friend just came in and was like, no, I'll kick this on my own. And she's like, no, I'm driving you to this rehab now. And I went literally the next day and checked in and went to it's actually North Hollywood. It was one of the gnarliest state facilitated, like scared straight situations I've ever been in.
Oh, wow.
But yeah, so it was a kind of a eye opener. And then, the other part too is when I got out, deciding if I wanted to go back into that industry, if I could handle it or not, which was a huge conflict for me because of money again. You know what I mean? I was like, what am I going to do now? Like I have a fashion degree, which doesn't make enough, and I haven't done it for 5 years, and then now I just spent all this money on fixing myself. So am I mentally stable enough to go back to that? And that took a lot of thought, and it just, I decided I wasn't. And I do still work. I work at a local little bar in Manhattan Beach. I mean, it's still a bar, but it's like, it's a lot different.
It's a different experience.
It's a different experience. It's a different atmosphere. It's like ex-Wall Street guy. Like, it's just very chill and relaxed. And then I think like 6 months out of rehab, I decided I wanted to go back to school and help people kind of similar to what stuff I've been through. And then now I'm doing the master's. I started with finishing bachelor's and master's. I was going to do the full PsyD PhD thing, but that might be a little bit far down the road. It's a lot of school.
Wow, that's
crazy.
Yeah.
a crazy lot, just a lot of accomplishments, and
I told you she's grown a lot. A lot.
It was well, because it was like we were talking about earlier. All of a sudden, I blinked and I was like, I am not 22 anymore. Like, it's not cute to be like this anymore. Like, I'm an adult, and I need to act like it, and I need to own my actions. And it was definitely a crossroad of, I could still just be that person, but I just wanted to like own my mistakes and in a way credit nightlife in the sense of giving me that realization and experiences, but it definitely was a huge factor in my mental downfall point, I think, just because I couldn't, some people can handle it, and I couldn't with my personality. So
yeah, I wonder if people actually, if anyone can handle it,
I mean, I wonder that too. And that's what I was saying in a sense of an openness of talking about it. Like, that's why I loved the idea of this podcast that Mikey had, because him and I have talked about this, solo, and in moments, and me too with, girlfriends. And I'm like, wow, it's like everybody kind of feels this way, but you're scared to talk about it. One, to lose your job, one, to talk poor of the industry, and it's not the industry. It's so many factors. And the more you suppress it, it's like it builds, and then it becomes all you think about, and then you can become actually suffer from depression and anxiety, and that's just going to affect relationships in your life. It's going to affect everything more than just your work.
And I think that's one of the biggest disclaimers, that something we've been talking about. It's like all these things that we went through, this is our past. This doesn't define who we were, but this is something that a lot of people have struggled to go through. But we really want to highlight, like, because of people, like you said, really had your back and really were concerned, because that's not depicted in our industry. That's not depicted in the ways we're grown. And like, we're all in such different places, and we're such different people from where we were. But we want to highlight that to show people like, yo, you can get through this.
Well, that's what I wanted to emphasize is, because it is a community. And I guarantee you, every single person at one point has felt that and maybe been too scared to share it. And if there was just more of an open platform for people to feel that vulnerability, then maybe it would be an easier thing to navigate and to, be an industry that could still thrive on, the party aspects and the fun and the money, but also feeling like you have a safe space to have your moments of, breakdowns without feeling like you have to harbor them, because then they just build, because they don't go away, and then they build on top of each other. Yeah, and that's why I wanted to emphasize when I, my I guess lowest point in life was them not being like, oh, you messed up, we lost all this money, you made this customer mad. It was like, we're concerned. We've seen a shift in who you are, and that meant more to me than anything,
Yeah.
So, because I'm sure, they've felt those moments too.
Of course.
You try to put your fake mask on and no, we're here to make money. And, but not everyone feels that way truly.
That's the thing too.
I said we have to wear the mask.
Yeah.
No, I'm glad I haven't had to do that one yet, but
there's a common theme with everyone that's sat down here with us is the people that we've worked with. We all were like on the outside having this amazing time, and we were making money, and we were going on trips, and we were doing this and doing that. But then once we get them here, they're like, man, I was struggling at home, and I was depressed, and I was going through this. Everybody has a different story, but the common theme was everybody was struggling in some way.
But in a lot of it, struggling internally, because you think about it, when you're there to host people, especially like I said, a lot of the high-end clientele that we have, you have to be your best, happy, bubbly self, almost like a robot in a way, even if you're having a bad day. And it's, and then you never want to be the person who I don't know, you never want to be that vulnerable person, because there is a lot of competition in this industry, and that's the only downfall not the only, but I'd say the main downfall in it. And like you said, the common thing that everybody has said, whatever story it is, whatever it led them to, we didn't see what was happening with them at home. We saw their shield or their mask of, their happy party. Let's like make everyone have a good time in that,
Right.
6 hours we're there.
Right. I mean, our job was to serve people, but we never actually served ourselves.
That's
in
very
life.
good way to put it.
You know
It's
what I mean?
very good. And that putting so many people before yourself to the point of people you don't even know. But it's like you can't truly until you're truly happy. It's like it's not even fake. It's almost like fake serving, if that makes any sense. It's like it's not even. At the end of the day, it was like even when girls would have bad days, and like I said, if you are one of the one of the girls and you give people advice, but then it almost feels fake what you're telling them, because you're actually suffering too. Yeah. It'd be like a psychologist having a mental breakdown and then talking. You know what I mean? That's why, for me, it was like I needed to go through rehab. I needed to do the steps. I needed to do the work. I did 3 years of really extensive trauma therapy before I even started this program, because I needed to be the best me I could be before I was sitting down and giving other people, advice and listening to them. And it goes hand in hand with, huge mental deficits and really difficult job environments.
Man, I'm just blown away. You did a complete 180.
Oh, thank you. 'Cause, I mean, it wasn't, summing it up quick. It wasn't, trust me, it was not, not easy. And I was, not to touch too much on specifics, but I was really, really bad. I was a bad case of numbing myself, because again, I'm such a yes person, and I never wanted people to see me sad or, anxious. So I just numbed myself. And that's how, I created an addiction, and a really, really, really hard one to break. One of the hardest ones mentally, and your physical body becomes dependent on it. And it was funny because just thinking about it, I remember driving. This was probably a month before I left and went to rehab. I remember driving, taking my usual stuff, and I was like, you have a serious problem, but you got to get through it. And I literally remember knowing it and being so aware of it, and just thinking, well, that's how you're going to get through it, and not knowing the end point of it, though. Yeah. Not knowing, well, when am I going to stop doing it?
Was that scary for you at that point, or were you just kind of so in it where you're just like, it is what it is, and what's going to happen is going to happen? Or were you really nervous?
I am such a type A control freak that there were probably no. Yeah. I wish I could say no. I was like, it is what it is. You're now you're in my head, the rational, the rationale that I made it, which sounds ridiculous looking at it, sober now, is that I was like, what, this is what you got to do to get through it. And this is just you controlling your emotions. And do you know what I mean? That sounds ridiculous, but that is how I looked at it. Then when you have a clear head, you look now back at it I cannot believe, there are moments I can't believe I, not to get too morbid, but didn't die to the point of the stuff I was doing. I was lucky. Yeah, I was lucky. I was lucky in that sense that I was given. And that's, I think, why I did such a 180, because I looked back at the things that I did and the moments I was in and the positions I put myself in. And I was lucky enough to never have hurt myself or killed anyone else to such an extent of I meant killed in the sense of driving, accidents, things like that, just doing very reckless behavior. So That
I've
was
definitely been in those shoes. And
Yeah.
looking back, it truly is scary because back then you're like, oh my God, yes, I made it home and I parked my car.
Yes, yeah, and you're like, that was an accomplishment. And I look back now and I'm like, I can't even believe that I even thought of that as an accomplishment.
Right.
That was like a horrible like.
There are certain days I look back and I'm like, yo, man, I'm on this planet for a reason.
Oh, for sure.
Because I should have. I shouldn't have made it out of some of those
There's
situations.
like don't you feel like there's multiple
Multiple.
times, like multiple,
And like just how reckless
It's
I was
just-
in the past. Like now we're so much more like I love 20s figure your shit out, but my 30s, like I'm loving my 30s because we're all on point now. You know what I'm saying? Like we
Yeah.
could never sit and have this conversation
No.
years ago.
Couldn't imagine having
But
this.
like
yeah.
just knowing you and like, yo, we were reckless.
I mean, even you and I, Mikey, didn't talk for 3 or 4 years, just
Yeah.
doing our own thing, and then we reconnected the past 7 months because we both kind of went through our own stuff, and just clicked because it was the same kind, in a different story, like he was saying, but same feelings, same emotions, same anxiety, and
Same hardships.
and trying to get through it and trying to, make our 30s like the best it could be, as opposed to, wallowing in it. So, and being held accountable, that's, the first thing in, any NAA program is, admitting your stuff, being held accountable, but it is really true. Like I did those things and thank the Lord, nothing serious happened. And so now I need to hold myself accountable. And that helps also keep me sober, straight and narrow, and keep me motivated to stay on this path and not regress.
Yeah. I mean, being open and vulnerable is what we're doing, but
Mm-hmm.
being open and vulnerable when you're working in nightlife, that doesn't
Not a
mix.
thing.
It doesn't.
I mean-
no one wants to party with the bottle service girls talking about this shit.
Right.
Like that's not fun.
Exactly.
So
Also, it
a
was-
community where they can do that before is, I think, so crucial. And I think it's scary because you don't know who you can trust. You don't know, like, if you say something that maybe something is said and then it makes you look, you know what I mean, that you can't handle it.
It's so cutthroat.
Yeah,
That's
it's
the
very
thing.
cutthroat.
It's cutthroat and
And there's so many people that want, and we were reminded constantly.
Constantly.
You don't want to do this. There's 1,000 people that want your job.
I think I was told
And it's
that
not
daily.
Wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like, but honestly, it's not far fetched. It's very, very true. But can those people deal with what I deal with? Probably not.
So that's
Yeah.
what I've come to the realization. It's funny you say that because I think I said this to a girl the other day. Even the bar I work at now, it's not funny, but it's a very high volume, and it's very like high status people in the sense of, like I said, Wall Street guys, whatever. And our owner's a little difficult sometimes, but the girls get very stressed out. And they'll be like, oh, you fired me. And I'm like, honestly, babe, there's only 9 of us who work there. They've been there for like 8 years. I was like, there's a reason that there's only 9 or 8 of us and we've been here this long. We're not that, like, what is the word? Thrown away, exposed, or whatever. When, like, he needs us, I think, more than we need him. Because there's not a lot of people who have the personality to do this kind of stuff. But in the end, I think those people need to feel the ability to be open in their downtime from work so they can get it off their chest, and then so that they can go into their job not completely putting on a mask. And it's scary because, like you said, it's cutthroat, and you don't know who's going to be like, oh, she's too mentally unstable to work this event, or you know what I mean? Like, she's too depressed right now. So you feel like you can't talk about it. But that's actually what's going to make you more stable because you're getting it out there.
Right. And then when somebody does act out and they're acting weird or crazy, and you're like, oh man, she's fucking crazy.
Yeah.
But in reality, maybe she's going through some shit.
Yeah.
Or he's going through
100%.
some shit. And companies, a lot of companies, nightlife, whatever. I don't know about regular. I've never had a regular job, but
No, but finance, no, just even from talking to the clientele I have now where I work, like finance, Wall Street, it's all very like similar and different, but in that sense where you have to be on point at all times because, like Mike said, there's another person who will go in and scoop that job.
For sure.
And that's a huge pressure in itself.
And we definitely want to change that stigma because, like you said, it's therapeutic to get it all out. It makes you. It helps your mental by talking about it and really like living it out and just explaining what's going on in your head so it doesn't just sit and dwell on you. And like my favorite thing, people be like, "Oh, your life looks nice." I'm like, "You want it?"
Yeah.
Like
I say that too.
Yeah,
That's
I'll be
so
like,
funny. Do you want to switch tonight?
Yeah, I'm like, you can gladly have it. They're like, "I would love it." I was like, you love that 30 seconds you see on Instagram, or you think that I'm at a
100%.
party hanging out with a celebrity. Nope.
Those that our nightlife life is literally Instagram, in my opinion.
Yep.
Like,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? It's literally a live version of an Instagram feed.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? You have no fucking idea what the hell is going on in there with their moms, their dads, their relationships, their whatever. And exactly, it's like, it's such a stigma. And that's, I guess, when Mikey and I even just first started talking just one-on-one and getting to know each other in our newfound paths of life, was that I was like, it's so nice to be able to rap with you about this, because we've actually literally done some of these events together, and you're now on this side, on the side I'm on. And it was therapeutic for me to even talk about it with you. Just talking about it. It doesn't need to have a solution, but it needs to be spoken about.
For sure.
Yeah. So we just got real heavy real quick.
So-
Hey, that's what we're about. That's what we're about.
So, especially now from where you are with the behavioral, what advice would you give to people that are in the shoes you used to be in? Like struggling right now and going through certain things and dealing with that anxiety and that PTSD from, you know, from the scholastic point of view and personal point, obviously.
Yeah. And no, for me, even when you've asked this question before, I really did think about it. And, I mean, like we just said, I really emphasize that community focusing on mental health, like whether or not it's like the group of girls or the group of the guys or even the whole club itself, not doing like little Christmas parties or whatever, but doing like community, you know, like once a month, like let's just all talk about what, and like be open about it. This isn't, you know, giving people a safe space, like I said, I think is a huge part of it. And another big thing I wanted to touch on is not taking away from the importance it is to have, you know, hospitality industries, nightlife industries, because people need an outlet to have fun. People want to go to restaurants. Like that's just a part of life. But for the workers in it, whether or not it's their ultimate goal to move up in that company because that is what they want to do, or it's just to get them through, you know, financially and while they get through school or whatever it is, to still realize at the end of the day that it's like, this is a job. You know what I mean? It's not who I am. It's not defining me. And if I know I'm doing my best in it, whether other people are thinking I'm not going fast enough, selling enough, not making enough money, money does come and go. It just does. Whether or not you're bringing in the big bucks then, it will come again eventually. And to focus on creating, I guess, for the girls who are still in it or guys who are still in it, promoters who are still in it, to focus on building relationships with the clients, not just solely based on how much they can sell to them, but based on like you know, almost becoming homies. And that has more longevity, that has actually more stability in the long run financially than anything, instead of pushing out all you can on like one night. And then that stress, that becomes stress onto your clients and then onto us, because it's so much pressure. And then also just like, honestly, it's like your sanity and staying centered, especially in those moments, is so crucial, because that's when those breakdowns happen and you drink too much, or you know, take drugs, or you have a moment of a freak out and, you know, you say something you shouldn't to a customer or manager or whatever. It's okay to take, because you think there's so much to do. It's high volume. It's high stress. You're selling in a very short amount of time. To even take like a breathing exercise, go outside for 10 minutes and center yourself, instead of going and taking your 5th tequila shot to get yourself better. Do you know what I'm saying? It's like, I mean, and I know you all know that, and I know that.
We prefer the tequila shot in those
I
moments.
know, in those moments, because you're being reactive, right? So like in the behavioral psychology aspect, it's like the biggest thing that you focus on is not being reactive to things, to processing them, whether it's a 5-minute, 10-minute process where you stand outside, you go to the bathroom, you breathe, instead of being reactive, taking the shot, yelling, getting aggressive, whatever it is that it is. And remembering that that's not who you are, you know what I mean? And that's not your purpose for being there. Your purpose is just hosting people in those 4 to 5 hours to the best of your ability, and not beating yourself up if you didn't sell them $100,000 that night. You know what I mean? It's money comes and goes. I think the relationships are what's important, whether it's with the people that are coming in or whether it's with the people you're working with.
Yeah.
So that's what keeps it stable. You stable, and the, you know, environment stable.
I also think companies need to change the way they do things. Like, it's got to come from the top. You gotta have a safe space for people to speak about these things. And
that's even what I meant about with like whether it's like a retreat, sounds weird, but even if like you know how you have company meetings or, you know, whatever, it's like none of those are not, then this isn't anything against bosses, but you don't leave feeling good about them. You leave feeling like, wow, this is what we're doing wrong. This is what we're doing. We're not selling enough. We're not, you know what I mean? It needs to be meetings focused, and of course you need those too, you know,
Right.
but you need to be ones that are like, this is a mental health hour that we're doing together as a group, because we're
Right.
together all the time. We're working these, and I want everyone to be vulnerable, no judgment. It's not going to affect your work performance, and tell us how you're feeling about the past month. Were you stressed at this moment? Did someone make you uncomfortable? And especially being a girl, we wear little skimpy ass outfits. There's a lot of, people out there who are, that was another for me hard. I'm very alpha and it's very hard for me to not like punch a man who grabs my ass, and you can't do that.
Yeah.
So those are the moments where I would take a tequila shot instead of, go and be like, calmly tell my manager or, be like, what, sir, like, please don't, you know what I mean? Because I'm like, well, if I do that, then they won't want me as their server. It's like, that's not what we're there for. And that's what would be great if you said, if, from higher up has these moments where they can hear the girls out about, sometimes that really affects us. Like it really does as a young woman. And even with, the guys, the TSAs are, they're our backers and they see it too. And as men, you want to protect those girls. You get to know them. I'm sure it affects you guys too. And like you said, it's like that needs to come from higher up where there needs to be a focus on the mental health in the nightlife industry.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the times where we had group outings, it was literally an outing to go to a club.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
And getting fucked up.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, we're going from working together, serving, to going out together in the same
Yeah.
environment and same self-consciousness that, we're all masking with alcohol. And we're not getting to know each other. We're not.
And most of the time, don't you feel like you're kind of there to like promote your club? Like, this is our cool group.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like, sorry. And again, I don't want to be negative on the industry, but it's like you're going to promote like, your beautiful girls and your cool guys. And like, we have fun too. And like, maybe you're going to the new club that opened to show that, or maybe you're going to their new restaurant or whatever. There's kind of like a weird play behind it. Like it's not for us to let loose and have fun every time. And that's not what we need. We're doing that 4 nights a week with these people. We need a day of calmness in a room where we can all just talk.
Well, also, we would be forced to go too, remember?
Oh, yeah.
It was a paid hourly shift. So we were
Yeah.
getting $15 an hour, which we would never get anyway, because by the time they include our tips, we were screwed. So you had to go out, but you had to act a certain way. You
Yeah.
couldn't just be chill. You had to be up and dancing. You had to be drinking. You had to be mingling with the clients around you and promoting our club for them to come to the next night. She's
Exactly.
100%
And
right.
if you didn't go, oh my gosh,
You get
it was
rid-
like
you get written up.
you missed out on a chef. It was like you like bailed on a chef.
Right.
Yeah. So it wasn't, again, it's still not like a company outing. You know what I mean? Like,
And there was-
it's just another shift essentially.
And it was
it's a shift where they're allowing you to drink openly.
Yeah, exactly.
It kind of sucked because there'd be nights where I'd work, a Wednesday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and then like, oh, you got to go out on Tuesday. I'm like, yo,
That's my
drained.
regroup
Right.
day. That's
Yeah,
your
like,
regroup day.
I am literally, I haven't got anything done. I'm having a fucking full-blown mental panic attack right now. But you want me to
Exhausted.
go to a club now and mingle and party when I need to recharge?
And
Right.
again, put your mask on and be happy and dance on tables and be social. It's like literally the exact, it's like atmosphere modeling, basically. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's adding to the party.
Right.
And like you said, I think it needs to come from higher up where it's like, sure, if they still throw that in once in a while, but there needs to be moments that are dedicated to being at 12 o'clock in the afternoon and you're in an area like we are right now at Mikey's house and everyone's just rapping about what the hell they're going through. It could be like, guys, I've been off my game lately because I'm going through a divorce or a breakup. My mom died, whatever it is. And to even just be able to say that to your coworkers could go huge lengths in the support you get when you go back to your next shift.
I think that's why we all got so close, though, because we knew, and again, no offense to management in certain places, because some were great and others had their own agendas on what they needed to do. But like, as a service staff, as TSAs, especially TSAs and fucking servers, we got so close with some of the people that I did get close with. Is like, yo, they would open up about, hey, I'm going through this. And it's like, yo, that night I would make sure to have your back more and be more attentive to you because I know you're struggling and mentally you're not here right now.
100%.
But I got you.
And that's kind of what with the place I work at now. Yes, again, it's, it's a bar, but we are so like that. Like, it's like they've become I mean, the girls too, the places I worked at, some of them are still my best friends and always will be. Like, we've created bonds too. But even there, like, I'm like, as you know, my school course load, because I'm also doing fast track, is insane. So working on top of it and trying to stay on top of school, doing scholarship program, exams, boards, all that has really taken a toll. Obviously, it's draining, you know, and then going into the bar life. And I have never had so much support in a sense of girls being like, hey, I know you had your midterms, you know, so like, we'll like, you know, you kind of like, we'll kind of like, there's so much support there. And it really, I didn't even really realize it until I started it, how much of a difference it makes in your everyday life and in your job life too. And then it also makes you a better, you know, server to these people who are coming in, because you're not having, you know, mental breakdowns or getting wasted because you're upset. And you know that if you need a 10-minute break because of that, like, they got you and they know why, and they don't even need to ask why, because you've already talked about it outside of that moment and they're not judging you for it. And that's, yeah, I think that I think is the biggest tip, if that can somehow be facilitated to upper management to focus on. And then just, you know, if it's not something that can be put to play, for the girls to remember that, even though it's hard at times and stuff. And I know money is a huge reason as to why we're all in this. And like I said, it comes and goes, man. And I'm sure as during this pandemic, we've seen it more than we've ever seen it, you know, like struggling financially and livelihoods and all that kind of stuff. But
Not even just financially, we're all human beings.
Yeah.
We all struggle. Everybody struggles.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter.
no,
This is forcing everybody to look in the mirror, because you're usually alone. Most people are alone, and you have to look in the mirror and be like, oh shit,
yeah,
what
yeah.
am I looking at now? You know?
Yeah. In an actual literal sense, I remember at the end, I like couldn't look at myself in the mirror after work, even on my shifts. I would look at myself and this is getting pretty deep, but I remember like looking at myself one night in the middle of a shift, and I was like, what the hell are you doing? Like, I was like, I didn't know who I literally had lost touch with who I was, which is truly one of the most biggest, you know, things in your self-worth. And like, when you lose that, it's like you lose other relationships. You lose, you know, with your sisters, your brothers, your friends, you know, your boyfriends, whatever.
Yep.
And so that was, you know, a breaking moment. And I can truly say, you know, like I said, 3 years clean and coming out of this, and it was not easy. I have never been more I've never been more in tune with myself. I've never been more aware of myself. Not to say, I tell Mikey all the time, I was like, yeah, I had a shit day too, stressed out, all this, but I'm okay with it. Like, I can sit with it, you know, I don't have to go numb it. And it's like, it's definitely like, and then that even boosts that. It keeps boosting your confidence, and it makes you okay to have moments of badness and not beat yourself up over it, or to fail at something and not beat yourself up over it. Just like, okay, I did this wrong. Next time I'm going to do this, you know, instead of, you know, self-deprecating.
Yeah.
It's okay to not be okay.
And that's the stigma against it, is people think that if they're vulnerable to not being okay, that's what they're just going to be labeled as. And that's not what it is. We're human beings. Everyone has those moments. And if anything, I love and respect people so much more when they say stuff like that. I'm like, good for you. Yeah, like, you're depressed as fuck last night. That's great. I was too last week. You know what I mean? Like doesn't that, even
It's
you came in for
common.
2 minutes and we rapped for 2 minutes and I already felt close to you, just because when you have that openness, it's like so much more refreshing and real. And that was the other thing I was going to say with the tip thing, is like, just be yourself, be real. Like, you know what I mean? It's okay. You don't need to be the happy, bubbly, cute, flirty girl all the time. It's okay to be real. It's, you know, it's some people find it more charming than anything.
Oh, for sure.
I mean, I've definitely cried in the freezer.
Oh, me too. Been there, babe. Been there.
And for people who don't work in the nightlife scene or the restaurant scene,
yeah.
there is the cooling freezer that you'll go into and be like, I
Literally
just need 2
the
minutes,
cooling freezer.
and cry hysterically because you just can't take
Because
it
you
anymore.
can't hear, no one can hear you
Yeah.
either. And
you can
you're
scream.
you're having an anxiety attack, so you're
Yep.
hot, and then you just go in there and it's like, oh, and then you walk back out with a big old smile on, and
Because
it's
you
like,
just released everything.
and you're like, what is going on
And then
right
you
now?
take a shot of tequila.
I used to punch like empty cardboard boxes and
Oh, like in the back.
plastic trash cans. I'd go back there and be like, "Fuck!"
Yeah.
and like just roid out. I mean, it wasn't a roid, but you know what I mean?
Yeah,
that whole
no.
thing.
I have seen, I can genuinely say, I think anytime I've worked, I have seen at least one person have a moment like that.
Yeah.
Which means we all have felt that way, but no one feels the ability to talk about it.
Right.
So,
Yeah, I've had moments where she's worked with me where, again, she can attest to as many people where they're like, we're not even going to talk to you right now.
oh, I didn't talk to you all of EDC.
Yeah.
Like, I was like terrified of you. Like, literally, you came up to check on our area, and I was like, hey. And I'm like, and we're like friends. Like, you were my TSA. Like, I was like, hey, I'm doing this. I'm good. It was funny. But you did. You had to put your, you had to put your managerial mask on and like run it. And I get it.
Yep.
It's like that, but that just staying true to yourself as hard as it is. And I'm sure there's moments, but then also not beating yourself up if you did have a night where you had a roid throwing
fucking
shit
roid.
thing.
I was like every night.
Yeah.
And like you said, I was like numbing myself. So, cause I knew I was going to get that way. And like before I even entered the building for the shift, I was drunk.
Oh, same. 3 to 4 shots, doing my makeup, doing my, my addiction drugs. And but for me, that was standard.
Yeah.
And I that was when I started to notice too, is I'd have a girlfriend over before work and she'd be like, are you okay? And I'd be like, yeah, why? And she's like, you just had like 4 shots of tequila. I'm like, yeah, I'm about to go to work.
Right.
It was literally like taking a protein
the norm.
shake before the gym. You know what I mean? And then I did not realize how
You're like-
fucked up that was.
Right. 4. I usually take 6. Today I'm taking it easy.
Yeah, there's,
I feel
no, I know. I was
I
like,
feel good today.
girl, this is just pre-work.
Yeah.
Like, we're about to do a group community shot there, and then
Right.
me and the bartender are about to give them to each other. You know what I mean? It's like,
Yeah.
but it's funny because it's an unspoken thing that we all do.
Right. Exactly.
And that's when it can become for people with addictive personalities actually become a problem. And
for sure.
that's what happened to me,
Man, this has been a super insightful episode.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
it's been
yay,
great.
good.
I think I
know.
needed it because I was feeling some kind of way today.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's like even you're feeling some type of way as we're coming into film, but you still like, yo, we got to do this. Let's put our head on. Let's talk about it, and then we shoot. And it's great to have that.
This seems like a nice place to take a break.
Best way we love to wrap up the show is end on a happy high note. Or a funny note, whichever way. So give us your favorite.
Oh yeah, I got a
Your
good story for
favorite
you guys.
story.
Yes.
from
I think she
Nightlife.
wrote it down.
I
She looked at it.
I wrote little bullet point notes more on that kind of stuff. But no, this story I can tell to drop
Yeah, this
back
is the
because
first bullet point person we had with their fucking.
that I looked at my phone because it's a good one.
We appreciate it though. We appreciate the preparedness.
It's because it's a good story, and again, like you said, you're feeling some type of way. I'm pretty relaxed. I'm pretty open, obviously. Driving here, I got nervous because this story is not something I've told a lot of people besides the people who witnessed it, and I wanted to articulate it properly. So this is kind of coincides with the end of my bottle service career. The bouncers and the door guys are great because at the end of the night, it's 3 a.m. They make sure we get to our car safe, and all that. I always love them for that because you're in the middle of Hollywood. Who knows? So one night I happened to park my car not in the normal spot where other girls park it. It was like behind the corner. And I was walking and we just, gotten tipped out. It was a great night. I had a couple grand in my purse. And a couple grand and, my illicit drug abuse was in theirs as well. That I get into my car and my car doesn't automatically lock when I get into it because it was like a beater car. And this guy comes into it and he's clearly on whatever he's on or wasted. And I recognized him knowing that he was partying at the club I was working at. And he gets into the car and I was like, oh, you think I'm an Uber? And I was like, oh, this isn't an Uber, honey. I'm sorry. And he's like, take me here. And I was like, no, sweetie, it's not an Uber. Like I was trying to slowly explain to him. I'm like, I work here. Like, do you not see my outfit? I'm trying to go home. Like, can you get out of my car? And he starts pounding on like the dashboard and like starts grabbing my arm, like just so aggressive. And I was like, oh my gosh, okay. So like, this is like real. Like, I don't know what I would do. And I was around the corner. So the door guys, like no one could see it. And so in my head, I was like, okay, so pretend like you're going to take him where he wants to go and then drive around back to the front of the club because I knew the door guys were still out there and they'll see, So I do that and I'm like, okay, sweetie, I'll take you. And he's like, okay, good. And I take him around to the front of the club and he still wouldn't get out. So I get out to open the passenger door to kind of show the door guys like, hey, like I need your help. This guy's like in my car. And as I do it, he grabs my purse, which has all my money and stuff in it. And runs out and runs. And I being, so focused on things that were irrelevant and not my own safety, run after him and tackle him to get my purse because I was like, homeboy ain't taking off with all my stuff and tackle him. And then he like really throws me down on the ground, but I had my purse in my hand. So in my head, I was like, I'm good. Then he runs jumps into my car because my car was a push start. My keys were still in it and takes off with my car. And like, I think at this point, the bouncers and bystanders were so blown away of what just happened. Like everyone was kind of on pause and I'm like on the ground, also like not upset, just kind of like, wait, did he just take off with the car? And then it like all sunk in. And then they, one of the bouncers called the cops. Cops come. They have me get in the back of their car to help them find the guy. And a helicopter comes, or 2 helicopters, 3 cop cars. I'm in the back of the car and I'm like, this is the gnarliest thing ever. And we're searching for this guy till like 4 a.m. Finally, I was like, I'm exhausted. I have my purse, which is all I cared about. I got my money. I have my stuff. I'm good. And they're like, hey, sweetie, like they Ubered me home. And then I get a call at 5 a.m. from a detective, an actual detective. And they found my car in some random abandoned lot, like totally trashed. Like the guy hit it or whatever. Door open, keys in it. The guy wasn't there. And to this day, the detective and I talked on and off for a couple of weeks because they like really wanted to figure it out with no idea who it was. Never found it. And yeah, that was probably the craziest moment too, just because again, type of people that we deal with who tend to come to those places is that. And I don't even think his intention was to steal my car or to steal my purse. I think he genuinely thought I was an Uber and then just reacted and that was, I feel like that's a pretty crazy story. That's pretty good, right?
Don't do drugs, kids.
Yeah, right.
Literally, no. And again, it was a moment where I was like, wow, at least I'm not like that. That was like, it was just so funny that instead of caring about the fact that I could have gotten like killed or anything, it was like, all my money's in there. And I didn't even care about my car. I was like, I got my purse. I'll get the car thing we'll figure out. I was actually shocked how far he was able to drive it. The lot was really far. It was this empty, weird lot they found it in. But there were actual helicopters following us in the cop car.
Funny.
Hollywood is like a playground, dude.
It's wild.
It
really is.
wild.
Like,
It's wild.
especially when you work in that scene. Like, I can't even imagine what it's like to be a celebrity. I mean, because that's when you're like you're in the
echelon?
video game and you have all the powers and you just
Those
run
were a
around, do
lot of
whatever.
stories I wanted to touch on, but I'm not going to just out of, privacy reasons. But there's a lot of situations like that I've seen with very high-end celebrities where I'm just shocked. In that,
Not
if we
anymore.
Yeah, no.
I'm not shocked anymore.
not shocked with you guys because you've seen it, but in other aspects, like if they could make a reality show without ruining and a bunch of people's lives, it'd be very
We've
interesting.
had people approach us about a reality show on a couple of different things, and we're just like, yeah, no.
There's no way you could do it.
You can't. We'd
You
have
couldn't-
to blurt out.
You have to blur out everything.
Right.
It would be a boring show because
Yeah.
the only things they could show would be the not interesting stuff.
Yeah, and that's not what we talk about here.
Yeah,
But,
yeah.
Yo, on that note, Sierra, it was great having you on. You were super insightful. Thank you. Good luck to everything you're doing. Can't wait to see all of the positive changes you are going to make in this world.
Thank you so much. And I must say, I'm very proud of you too, Mikey.
Thank
We've
you.
come a long way. And Dan, it was so nice meeting you.
Thank you. I
And
really needed that.
We even like I said, 2 minutes in, and I already felt like I've known you for years.
I know, right? Thanks for coming.
Thank you,
course.
guys. Yo, we'll see you next time on The Chaos.
All right, bye.
Peace.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Chaos Control, hosted by Mikey Tableman and Danny J. Gomez, producer and audio engineer Nick Dewar. Please be sure to like, subscribe, and leave a review on the Apple Podcasts app or wherever you listen to your podcasts. Join us next week for more chaos.